have saved this practice today for last because I think that it's like the spice, it's the secret ingredient in all the rest of the practices. It is the With it, you're halfway done with all the rest, but without it, your life is not much fun. Does anybody guess what the practice is? Gratitude. The attitude of the gratitude. You can see, if you think about it clearly, if you really think about it, the heart, the soul, the foundation of each and every one of these practices. Forgiveness. Last Sunday we talked about how gratitude is the magic ingredient that can turn any spite or any hatred or anger upside down, inside out, and all around, because we can be grateful for the lessons we have learned from our teachers on the spiritual path, and bang, you have forgiveness. It's very obvious that it's the soul, it's the heart. If you take the gratitude out of each one of these, you've taken the soul out. They're only halfway there, they're halfway done, they're incomplete. If you take the gratitude out of generosity, you have genera. If you take gratitude out of compassion, you have if you take gratitude out of acceptance, you have if you take gratitude out of humility, you have humility. If you take gratitude out of forgiveness, you have forget. If you take gratitude out of gratitude, you have. And if you take it out of love, you got. But if you put it back in, where it belongs, you put the gratitude back in, and all of a sudden they're full, they're whole, they're complete. I think we should consider renaming them. If you put gratitude back into generosity, you have generositude. Can you feel it? You put it into compassion, you got gratassion. Into acceptance, acceptitude. You put it into humility, with the state of being humble, you have gratumble. You put it in forgiveness, you have forgivitude. You put it into gratitude, and well, you put it into love. You put it into love, you got grub. And so you can see clearly that gratitude is really, it's the soul, it's the beginning, it's the first step. With it, you're halfway done. Without it, your life is not much fun. And in fact, as I had been going through this 7-week series, each time I was speaking about whatever the topic was for the day, I tried not to say the word gratitude, or grateful, or thankfulness. I tried not to because I didn't want to give it away. And so I'd be like talking about generosity, gratitude from I had to keep biting my tongue. But every time, it's like I could not say it. I could not say it. Because I truly believe and have always felt that enlightenment or awakening, coming home, is literally just on the other side of truly stepping into gratitude. Awakening is waiting right on the other side. You see, there is a line. Talked about the line last Sunday. There is this line. We're living two lives in one. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we're living two experiences at once, and we can choose which eyes we are seeing through. Are we seeing through the eyes of the ego mind of the world, or are we willing to take those groovy gratitude glasses, move them down here to our heart, to our soul, and see life through the spirit? Because then everything turns upside down. Everything looks different when you're seeing through the eyes of spirit. In fact, everything becomes magic. It becomes magical. That which looked bad is good. And it's like sparkle Christmas stuff starts to dance on everything. And I want the magic back. Say that with me. I want the magic back. I want the abracadabra alakazam back. Together? I want the abracadabra alakazam back. Now when my son was 3 and my nephew was 3, they had parallel experiences. The same exact experience. They're 5 years apart, but when Tyler, he's older, when he was 3, he was at my mother and father's house helping decorate their tree. And this same experience, CJ, 5 years later, experienced. Decorating the tree, it's just the two of them, just kind of get the feeling. You got the Christmas music going, and they're putting the decorations, and they're stringing the lights, and there's a fire in the hearth, right? And Tyler's 3 years old, he steps back, looks at the tree, and my mother said, "What is it, sweetheart?" And Tyler goes, "It's magic." 5 years later, my son CJ's 3, at my mother and father's house, helping with the tree. Exact same scenario. Stringing the tree, putting the stuff on, fire, music. He looks up at it. 5 years later, my mother says, "What is it?" My son CJ goes, "It's magic." would anyone here argue with them? Because we know it's magic. There's a part of us that still remembers that it's all magic. I mean, when you plug those lights in and they go bing, guess what? That's magic. No one understands electricity. You realize that. We know how to use it. We know that it's there, but no, science doesn't really get it. It's magic. The fact that I'm standing here speaking and vibrations are going through the air, coming into your mind, creating sound. There's no sound out here. You understand that, right? There's nothing out here. It goes into your mind and creates. It's all magic, man. We know that. We know that. But why don't we experience it like those two when we look at a Christmas tree or look at our life? Because the tree is a metaphor for our life. It's magic. Why? It has to do with which eyes we are seeing them. Which pair of glasses are we looking at the world? Where are we wearing them? In our heart, in our soul? Or up here in the ego mind that takes that, you know what it does. So what does it mean? So I want to show you the line. Here's the line. This is the line right here, and I call above the line, I call it granted, and it creates a malaise. Underneath, I've got gratitude, and it's magic. And there's a varying degree of being up in the head in the ego, and the higher up we go, the more it moves up the malaise scale. And you know what malaise is? It's just bleh. But when we go down into the heart, we're moving closer into the magic, closer to the kingdom of heaven. So my question to each and every one of us today is, what are we living for? Are we living for granted? Or are we living for gratitude? Because if we make gratitude our passion, our purpose, our mission, everything will change. And we begin to move closer to the magic in the Christmas tree. In all of our life, it awakens the kingdom of heaven with each and every one of us. The magic. So, what does it mean to take something for granted? I actually looked up the word granted because I wasn't really sure what it meant. And granted means privileged or privilege. And then I thought, well, what does that mean? So I looked up privileged, and privileged is defined as rights or benefits that the common are not given. Well, isn't that special? Who inspired that, Satan? Think about it. When we're living for granted, we're all, I'm better than you. Look at me. I'm privileged. I don't have to do the things you do, and I deserve more than you. That's that consciousness. Gee, what spiritual truth do you think is rooted in privilege? Forgiveness? Generosity? Acceptance? Humility? None of them. When we're living for granted, we can't have access to any of the spiritual truths. But when we move into the heart and move into gratitude, now here's the other definition of granted. Listen to this one. To use, accept, or treat with carelessness and indifference. I'm privileged. I don't have to treat things the way you have to. You see what I'm saying? Now I have to say that my wife and I celebrated our 12th anniversary yesterday. And it's been quite a journey. And we sat down and we talked about, what have been some of the highlights, and it's so full of highlights. It was overwhelming to even think about it. It was just like every day is such a highlight. But one of the highlights of our marriage is when she's out of town, because she goes out. I didn't say that last night. Because when she goes on these these conferences with her business, right? Because she goes off, she's a very successful businesswoman, so she goes off and she hangs out with all these men for 2 weeks, or a week, and what happens is I start getting phone calls, texts, and emails, and they're all the same thing. I appreciate you so much. Oh my God, I had no idea. Because being around 900 other men puts it all in perspective. And when she gets home the first couple of weeks, it's like, I'm privileged. But then after about a couple of weeks, it's over. But anyway, so So right now, if you came here by yourself today, or kind of just by, I would like you to close your eyes. If you came by yourself or just with kind of a friend, just close your eyes. If you came here with a wife, husband, a significant other, or good friend, I would like you to look at that person now. And say, please say with me, I'm sorry if I ever took you for granted. Together? I'm sorry if I ever took you for granted. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Amen. Put some magic back in your relationships. The missing ingredient, the secret ingredient is gratitude. Gratitude. It will change everything. If you want to create a malaise, take your spouse for granted. Take your spouse. I would say that 99% of the time that my wife and I have ever had any problems over these 12 years is when one or the other of us has been taking the other for granted. That's just a given. And the degree to which we are living in gratitude is the degree to which we see and experience the magic